Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. How are you doing? Is today Wednesday? It is. It is Wednesday. So today I'm going to be working on pinning tooltips. So we've got a number of comments that people would like to be able to read like the keyword descriptions when they appear in tooltips. And not all tooltips belong to items, which means that you can't often inspect the tooltips, like the keywords in a tooltip. For example, the enchantments, right? The enchantment says, converts, whatever. I forgot what the enchantment conversion is. Converts damage applied to bleed or something. Anyway, the point is that you can't read what those keywords are at the enchantment screen. So I started working on a tooltip pinning system, which basically will just freeze a tooltip in place, and then we'll show a secondary tooltip next to it, which lists out all of the keywords that are used in that tooltip. So I have a prototype of that working. The problem is I'm probably going to need to redo a lot of the tooltips or refactor or rework a lot of those. And then of course I have to make sure that it works on controller, which is going to be a huge headache. And I don't know, I'm sure it's going to be a lot more involved than what I currently have, but we're going to see how much of that we could get done on this stream. I think that's going to be a very good quality of life improvement. Anyway, Alchemortis is available for playtesting still. So we do have a date that the playtest is going to conclude. The playtest will conclude at 9 a.m. Eastern on Friday. So let's see. So basically 47 hours from now, right? Is that right? 2 days minus 1 hour. So 47 hours from now, the playtest is going to end. So you have basically until the last day of the week to try the playtest. So 47 hours left. Give it a try if you want to. You can also wishlist the game on Steam. If you want to support my work, you can join the Patreon. Subscribing at the top tier here for at least 1 month will get you a couple of nice perks. I will send you an Alchemortis Steam key for the full game when it launches, so you don't need to buy it on Steam. And your name will be listed in the in-game Alchemortis credits. So again, that's if you subscribe to the sponsor tier for at least 1 month. And then I also have my Udemy courses available for sale. These will teach you how to build complete games in the Godot engine. So if you're interested in that, that's a great way to support my work as well. And yeah, that's it. All right. Hello, Emerson. Welcome. 150 stream streak. Dang. That's pretty good. Hello, Budget Jim. Welcome. Alec Z. Hello, how are you doing? Light Tiramisu, welcome back. Celestial General, welcome. Thank you, Snup Bill, for the IDR 10,000. Very much appreciated. With the message Yummers, as always. Hello, Snup Bill, welcome back. Wooius, good to see you. Pinning tooltips, yes. Next step would be cascading tooltips like the Paradox games. I don't think I need to go that far, because I was thinking, like, do I make a whole... Do I end up going and making a whole like pinning cascading system, right? Where I pin a tooltip and then that tooltip has keywords and I pin that and then that tooltip has keywords, and like that could have been an option, but I really don't think I have a case in the game where that would be necessary. So yeah, I think I can get away with something a little bit more simple, and I'll show you, I can actually show you what that looks like in a second. Hello, Eskiltron, welcome. So I do have a basic working prototype here, and working is a word that's very loosely used here. But so here is the inventory. I hover over an item, I press Alt to lock the tooltip, and then it shows the keywords associated with that. So this is not positioned correctly, but this is basically the plan, is to lock the tooltip in place and then just show another tooltip next to it. And the reason that this mouse needs to be freed is because this could scroll, right? So obviously this is a problem because I can't actually close this. But, and this is actually not the case where the pinning tooltips is useful, because you could still, like, you can inspect items with right click and get the keyword explanations there. But the card tooltip is the most sophisticated or the most complex tooltip. So I wanted to see if getting the locking mechanism to work would even work here. Oh, you can see here's the scroll. So the locking mechanism does work. I currently have no way of exiting the lock, and also, yeah, it's just kind of broken. So those are some of the things that we're gonna have to fix. And I was working on this at like 1 a.m. last night, so I need to get my bearings again. So I'm not going to worry about like the positioning of anything right now. I need to mostly figure out the functionality. So the thing that I'm worried about though is that we've got this tooltip component here. Tooltip, well, that's tooltip pin component. So I've got a couple of things. Card tooltip. Why can't I open the card tooltip? There we go. So the card tooltip extends tooltip component. Tooltip component has basically hide and show, update position, register keywords, and process, etc. But it also has this is pinned state. Now I think I'm actually going to move this is pinned state to the tooltip pin component. So I may actually do that. Let's see. Process input. I might need to do process input. Unpin. Let's put the pinning in here. Public delegate void event handler signal public delegate void. Actually, do I want to do this? I'm gonna need to establish maybe tooltip pin component. Oh no, I don't need to do this. Okay, let's do this. Unpinned event handler. All right, so let's do this. Let's do owner is owner tooltip dot connect or dot visibility changed plus equals on owner visibility changed. Private void on owner visibility changed bool is visible. Set process input is visible. This does not work. So do I need to, it doesn't take an argument, I guess. Owner tooltip dot is visible or dot visible. Set process input, okay. And I'm just gonna go ahead and do set process input here as false, just to make sure that that's good. Okay, so then we'll take this input chunk out of here, and we're gonna put it here. Is pinned. I guess we'll put that here. Okay, we're just gonna call pin here. We also want to do get viewport.set input as handled. All right, so pin if owner tooltip equals null, whatever, it doesn't matter. Is pinned equals true. Is pinned equals false. So we need to emit these signals as well. I'm gonna want to test what happens if I have a pinned tooltip. So I may actually end up pausing the tree. What happens if I have a pinned tooltip on a card that gets destroyed? So I may actually end up pausing the game while the tooltip is pinned. But we will see about that. All right, tooltip component. So instead of being in here, I've got the tooltip pin component. So I want to do this instead. Connect to pinned on pinned tooltip pin component dot connect to unpinned. Actually, do I even need this? I wonder if I should just do a direct check. Well, obviously this is going away. I don't even know if I need this is hide queued, actually. Yeah, I actually don't think I need those signals. I mean, I'll keep them around for now, but I may just make this simpler. I may just make that simpler. Let's just get rid of those. Okay. Alrighty. So I need a way of unpinning this. So what we'll do in this tooltip pin, we'll just do and not is pinned. Else, well, actually, let's listen for both. So if not is pinned, we're going to pin it. Else, we are going to unpin get viewport.set input as handled. This tooltip component set process input, that goes away now. Cool. All right, so we basically ignore the hide and we ignore the show. Okay. So I think the easiest thing to do here would be to maybe I do want to connect to unpinned, because what I may want to do is I may just want to hide the tooltip and then we'll just try that. Alrighty. Hello V, welcome. Hello Ninja Link, good to see you. Welcome to everybody. Hello Clickertail. Good to see you all. Alright, so we pin this. We got poison. If I unpin, it all goes away. I probably want that to be a nicer fade out. Yeah, I probably want that to be a nicer fade out now that I think about it. But we don't need to worry about that just yet. So if I... Does that screen dimmer component propagate a mouse event? Oh, it does. Oh, interesting. Actually, now that I think about it, I probably want to propagate this mouse event earlier, if I'm not mistaken. So the weird thing about Godot is that if your mouse doesn't move, but the controls that are under the mouse change, like their mouse filter changes or whatever, that actually doesn't trigger an update of like mouse enter, mouse exit signals. So the way that I'm getting around that is I'm essentially just pushing a fake mouse motion input through the system that has zero relative motion or anything. It's basically just taking the mouse position and just putting a mouse motion event with that mouse position through the system. And that forces an update of all of the hover states and everything. The annoying part is I have to do that manually, but that is a nice trick to remember for the future. So if I do this, so there's a little bit of a flicker there. This is one of those things where maybe it's not that important to address, but you know, it may be something worth looking at. Because like if my mouse is still here, it might be good to keep that up. Or, you know, a little bit of a flicker is okay, I guess, but we don't need to worry about that. So there's the pinned version. So yeah, that's good. And here's the scroll bar version. Probably want a little bit more padding on this. Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, that amount of padding looks weird. It is consistent with this one, I believe. Is it consistent though? Actually, let me look. I don't know. Probably shouldn't be focusing on these minor details right now, but if I focus on the minor details now, I won't forget to handle them later. Am I in the wrong spot? Margin container, where are you? Here we go. Yeah, I think it's 4 pixels. It looks like 4 pixels. It is 4 pixels. Why does the... I don't know, it looks inconsistent to me. Tooltip pin component. I may just increase this more. What happens if I do 6? Maybe I shouldn't, but I wonder what that looks like. See, that looks better to me, but it's not the same. It's not the same padding. Well, we'll just use the same padding, I suppose. I could also think about increasing the padding of the card tooltip, but I don't know about that either. All right, whatever. It's fine. I won't worry about it just yet. Okay, so this is pretty much working the way that I want it to. This position of this little part needs to change because it's just kind of like randomly. Well, it's not randomly. It's always put in the very middle of the screen, but I want it to be aligned to the top edge of whatever tooltip. The other problem too is that I don't currently have a way of putting this on the other side based on like where the tooltip is. So like that works, but if the tooltip's over here, that's not going to do it, right? Okay, so we got to get all the input handling working for this. So let's wire up the escapable component, and it may be useful to also just figure out the controller focus as well, because I am going to need a scroll handler component. So I may as well just add that now. And scroll container here. Scroll container mode always is blocking. Requires scroll bar focus on. Yeah, I think that's it. So we'll have to see how that works. Let's wire up the escapable component now. Node private escapable component. Do I want to just swallow all of the other inputs? Else if EBT is not input event. Actually, I don't know. I'll think about that later. The problem is I can still open the inventory. I can still open the inventory when these tooltips are pinned, so I need to figure out a way around that as well. There's just a lot of like, the majority of this effort is basically just going to be handling the inputs, which is not great. Oh, the other problem is I need to add a escapable component. Add conditional. Conditionals all. Add conditional is pinned on escaped. Okay. We are going to do, I'm just going to do an extra step in here. If not is pinned, we'll just return unpin. Okay. Loading container.visible equals false screen container. Yeah, so it's setting visible. Is this undim? Shoot, I can't actually. Do I dare return a tween here? I don't know. Maybe I should return a tween here. Did you see my 270-second cooldown egg build? I did. Yeah, that's actually a really cool interaction. Using the egg cooldown, the long egg cooldown for damage. That is a very cool interaction. I like that a lot. It might be a little bit too strong, but I'm thinking, you know, once the final content is in the game, like you'll have to get the Hellspawn egg. You'll have to remove the hatch ability from it, or else it will only be useful for a couple of combats. And you have to get the right legendary ability anyway, right? So I'm gonna leave it in as one of those things where like it becomes super powerful, but you have to hit like all of those three things. Like you'll have to get a blood bulb so that you can remove the hatchable. Otherwise, you know, you're only gonna be powerful for 4 combats, which might get you through a boss fight, but it's not going to be a permanent, you know, thing. So I think that's the kind of thing where like personally, I didn't even think about that, right? I completely forgot that the Hellspawn egg was a thing that you could just use normally. And so like I feel like that's where like the game feels like it really shines to me, is that you have players who are putting all the pieces together and they're finding out this like combination where they're like, I wonder if this works, and then it goes and they do it and it works. But it also requires like a lot of effort to like massage and get it to work properly. Like that's the kind of thing where like I think the game is really, really shining. Cat Pandemonium, yeah. Hello, Rin. Welcome back. Good to see you. Do I dare return a tween out of here? I don't need to worry about this right now. Let's just see if my escapable component works. So I need to figure out a new hide tooltip button, I think. But if I do this and I press escape, that works. So the escapable component works. So we've got that pinning working. I can press Alt or Escape to close it. Wait a minute. Why does pressing Alt again cause a flicker but Escape doesn't? That's weird. Do I want to get viewport set input as handled first? Why does that happen? That's really weird. But if I press escape, it's like the same thing. Oh, the reason why it's flickering is because Alt is still the keybind to hide tooltips as well. So I still have it held down, and then when I release it, it comes back. Okay. I might just go ahead and remove that for now. That's what was making that flicker. So yeah, I was barking up the wrong tree. Barking up the wrong tree. Something that happens quite a lot on this channel. I am an experienced programmer, yes indeed. Here we go. Where is that? I guess it would be easier if I go to game constants and I look for hide tool. There it is. I think I just put this at the control extension level. Yeah. Should hide tooltip. To do tooltip hide key. So we do need to try this with controller. All right, let's see what happens. Let's plug in the controller. Oops. Sorry, my cord is all tangled. Yes, indeed, I still use cords for just about everything in the year 2026 because personally, I think batteries are incredibly annoying. And it's not working. And the reason it's not working is because I need to change the focus context boundary component to disabled by default, I think. And that is in tooltip pin component. So let's grab this private focus context boundary component. I will just reinforce that needs to be disabled here just in case. Set mode mode.disabled. Focus context boundary component dot set mode dot standard, and then we're going to do mode dot disabled when we unpin it. I guess we'll just put it here. It's fine. I don't think it really matters where I call this at. I think that's fine. Okay, let's see. Your tip about don't animate the pixel art in Sprite and do it in Godot helps me. I'm terrible with pixel art. Oh, nice. Very nice. Welcome back to the stream, by the way. My mouse is wireless. My headset, keyboard, gym phones, wires, no more. I mean, my mouse is wireless too, but it's acceptable because it charges quickly and it lasts for like 3 or 4 weeks on a single charge, so that's fine. I forgot what is the hide tooltip button. Do I have that in here? LT hold. Oh, interesting. That is not working for some reason. Action controller modifier alternate. Action hide tooltips. Action controller modifier alternate. Do I just put this in here? No, that doesn't work. Maybe LT plus A should be pin tooltips. Is action pressed or controller input dot is modifier action pressed EVT game constants dot action click left. So we'll make it LT plus A to pin the tooltip. Maybe that's not appropriate, but we'll see. I don't have a single cord anywhere on my desk. Why does my controller keep getting disconnected? Okay. That did not work. Why is that not working? Ah, this is annoying. Oh, is it modifier? Wait, action controller modifier. What is that? Right trigger. So I'm just using the wrong thing, I suppose. One of these days we'll get it. This is why the development of the game slows down the closer you get to release, because every new feature you add has to be complete, like totally complete. Okay, that works great. And then I can scroll this. Now, what happens if I have... What happens if I do this? I want to get an ability that can also scroll. There we go. So I've got this now, which can scroll. So if I, oops, pin that. So now the problem is I cannot scroll the Phoenix tooltip now. What am I going to do about that? Also, it looks like the positioning is not quite correct. What am I going to do about this? I mean, I guess I don't really need to figure this out right now. I need to enable the scroll bar focus on the card tooltip dynamically based on the pin state. So yeah, I'm gonna need to do that. I have to do this very carefully too, so I don't end up in like, you know, a state where the player gets locked in here somewhere. And I also need to release the focus, I think. Okay, so need to handle double scroll bars when pinned, and also I need to properly release focus when unpinning. Okay, well, it works somewhat. So I think before I like try to polish all this up and make it look and work really nicely, I need to figure out how this is going to work on the other tooltips now. Because it works fine. So the card tooltip, the reason I implemented it for the card tooltip first is because that's the most complicated and unique tooltip in the game. So I wanted to see if I could come up with a generalizable solution that would work for the card tooltip case. Since the other tooltips are simpler, it should be relatively easy to get them to work. The main concern I have with the other tooltips is that they have different positions in the tree, and so they may not properly handle the inputs that I need them to handle. So that's a problem. But we're just gonna have to check it out. So we're gonna go to the enchant tooltips, I think, which basically just use the generic tooltip if I'm not mistaken. So let's just say work on tooltip pinning. So let's go to the enchant container. So if I'm not mistaken, I think this just uses the generic tooltip. Is that an auto load? Yeah, it is. I'm not sure that this is going to work because of its position in the tree. I think I have an approach for it, but okay, anyway. Enchant.get description. Get keywords. Okay, so let's do this. We're going to go to, first of all, we need to do a couple of things. So we need to go to the generic tooltip. This needs to extend tooltip component. Recompute content width. That seems too complicated to me. All right. Protected override void clear. I don't need to do any of this stuff. On hovered entered, I also don't need to do any of this stuff. Well, I do need to do that, but we want to do... Yeah, I really don't know if this is going to work, but... Process, so ready, we're just going to do... This already calls clear and ready, so I actually don't need to do this. Tooltip component, process, update tooltip position, content root. So I don't need this either. On hover exited, this can just become hide tooltip. Okay. All right. I'm stealing your tooltip design. Sounds good. What is your current stance on using AI for coding? What do you think of other games in Alchemore genre on Steam? Do you think about how your game will compare other auto battlers much? Yeah, so the AI tools are very useful in a lot of cases. I've mentioned this before, but I've been using them for sorry, one second. Tooltip pin component. I've been using them for like code review and also helping with identifying bugs or like identifying the source of bugs. So using them as basically just like a second pair of eyes for changes that I'm making. Whenever I fix a bug, I will usually ask Claude if this actually fixed all the issues or if there could be, you know, some other issues or side effects that I introduced or missed. So that's a good use case of it. It's good for like architectural planning. So if I have an idea of something that I want to do, I might run it by Claude and see what Claude has to say about it, because sometimes it gives me some other ideas to try. But yeah, I think the only thing I really don't use it for is generating large amounts of code, like entire systems and whatnot, because like I said before, I need to understand how my code is working so that I can effectively work on it. The only time I let Claude make lots of code changes is when I already know the approach that I would take, and it would just be an exercise in just writing a bunch of boilerplate, basically. So, yeah, that's kind of how I use it. What I think of other games in AlcoWar's genre, Auto Battler. I mean, I've enjoyed other Auto Battlers. I mean, I played, you know, TFT a little bit when it first came out in the League of Legends client. I also, you know, I played a little bit of the Bazaar. I don't really play a whole lot of Auto Battler games though. So, like, Alchemortis is mostly inspired by the Bazaar. I liked how that worked, but I didn't like how it was PvP. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, but yeah, Auto Battler PvP just doesn't. I don't really enjoy that because it's, I guess because I'm bad at the games. I always get freaking stomped by players with these crazy builds that I have no idea how they put together. So yeah, I just thought it would be interesting to do like a single player version of an Auto Battler. And then do I think about how my game will compare to other Auto Battlers much? I mean, of course, yeah, like that's the thing. Like, are people going to like it as an entry in the genre? And does it do enough stuff different that people won't say, well, why would I play this when I have like backpack battles, right? So yeah, obviously I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say concerned, but that is something that's on my mind. But yeah, I do think like Alchemortis is different enough. And the fact that it's a single player roguelike Auto Battler kind of separates it from a lot of other inventory management Auto Battlers. And then like a lot of the single player Auto Battlers that I see, they don't play the same way that Alchemortis does, really. So I think it's different enough. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll be a good entry in the genre for a lot of people. So hopefully it's good, but we'll see. Your UI looks gorgeous, by the way. Do you have a tutorial for styling Godot UI or a good resource to go to? I don't. I wish I did. The theme system in Godot is a little bit convoluted, and mostly just learned how to use it through trial and error and trying to do things that didn't work and such. For, you know, one of the interesting things about a lot of my UIs is I'm actually kind of constructing my own setup. So for example, this board component here, right? So you'll notice that I've got one pattern for the sides, which is like these spiral pillars, I guess you could say. And then the bottom is basically just like a flat stone panel with some spikies on it. And then the top, though, has these extra design flourishes. And the problem is there's basically no way to get this to tile nicely with just like a normal 9-patch rect. So I actually, in this border panel, you could see that I'm actually just stacking a bunch of margin containers and 9-patch rects to get the exact scaling that I need to have, so that when this inner border panel here, no, this one here, so when this increases in size, it tiles properly. Now it's not working in the editor because it does need some code to work. But yeah, so a lot of the UI is like handcrafted like this, like very explicitly built to achieve the effect that I want. And then a lot of other stuff is like, yeah, just using the built-in theme stuff. Like the panel containers that we're working on right now are just the built-in theme stuff. Anyway, I know that's not helpful necessarily, but all that's to say, the stuff that I'm doing is mostly just experience and trial and error. I don't have like a good resource to point you to. How do you handle localization for a game with many keywords? So the keyword highlighting, the way that it works is I essentially have a predictable format that looks like this, right? So this is the source strings for the translation. And then whenever I need a keyword, it follows this format. Double curly braces, keyword underscore, whatever the keyword ID is. In this case, it's legendary. And then in the parentheses, this here is whatever the natural or whatever the translated language is. So the only thing that needs to remain consistent is like these parts here, right? And so that's how the game knows that this is a legendary keyword, but it doesn't actually care what this inner text is, right? I could call this puppies, right? And it would still treat that puppies word as a legendary keyword. So that's how I'm handling the translation. So a translator can come in, all they need to do is just preserve everything that's not inside the parentheses. They just need to change this word to whatever word it needs to be in the language they're translating to. And they can also move this to any other spot in the description. So they can reorganize it as they need to. So yeah, that's basically how I'm doing it. Now that does involve like parsing the strings myself and then doing a bunch of string replacement and stuff, but that was the best way I could just like figure out how to do it. And I hope it works. We haven't really had a rubber meets the road moment yet because like no translators have actually gotten their hands on this yet. But somebody did do a community translation to Russian, and I didn't hear anything about that translation being impossible to make because of the strings in the game. So I'm hoping that it's okay. I might need to see. Sorry, I just realized something else I want to do for the translations. You know, like the option to unfold all the inspector options all the time? No, I used to do that, but yeah, I find that, I don't know, it's kind of hard to use the inspector no matter what you do, but having all the options available, maybe I'll try it again. I used to do that for a while, and then I stopped using it. I don't know why. Still a really cool look. I'm sure I'll be able to figure it out what I need in a similar way. Thanks. Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. So for the generic tooltip, I need to be able to register keywords. So public keyword. Oops. Did I name it the exact same? Oh no. So we go to the enchant container now. In here, we do .register keywords, enchant.get keywords. Look at that. All right, moment of truth. Let's see what happens. Enchant is 4. Goodness gracious. So there's going to be a lot of challenges, particularly with controller for this, but I think we'll be all right. The main challenge, again, is going to be the input handling order. Oh, something's broken. I wonder why am I not just doing hide tooltip here? Okay. Okay, that's better. Let's go here. Pin. Okay. So the pinning works, but it's not... Okay, interesting. So my enchants are not all uniformly returning the keywords. So there's no keyword... Well, there are keywords here, but for some reason it's not picking up the keywords. So I'm going to have to figure out why that's happening. I think I may have some problems in my enchants. And actually, maybe I'm not even using... I might not even be using this get keywords in many places. No, I am. It looks like I'm setting that correctly. Interesting. Register keywords. Register tooltip keywords, tooltip pin component. I wonder why that's not coming up with any keywords. Interesting. Oh, that one makes sense. Poison enchant. Really? Oh, I broke it. I broke it. So the problem is the enchant abilities are marked as hidden. Man, if I wasn't so close to release, I would redo the enchantment system. So the enchantments are like separate objects that add abilities onto items. So they're not abilities themselves. So the problem is the enchantment gets rendered as a separate thing on the top of the ability list. But that enchantment is just visual and it's adding another ability, or it's adding an ability to the item, but I don't want that ability to be rendered in the list again. So I mark it as hidden, and I made a recent change to make hidden abilities not contribute to the keywords, but the enchant is not really hidden. It's just displayed as a different object. So the problem is the keyword's not being returned. Because of that, and that would be an issue. Shoot. What do I want to do about this? All right, well, hold on. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break. When I come back, we will figure out what to do about this. So anyway, BRB. All right, sorry about that. I'm back. Now we got to figure out what to do about this. So the enchants are not properly surfacing their keywords. Let's see. Wonder if there's like a way I could fix this in the base enchant. I think this would just be get keywords. I think this would be composed ability. All right, so I think actually what I would do so all of my enchants that have keywords, yeah. Okay, so I think this is what I can do. We'll go to base enchant. Get keywords is going to be, let's just do get composed abilities dot select many x dot get keywords. We're just going to do that. And then we also want to pass in some kind of bool, ignore hidden is equal to false. If not, if is hidden and not ignore hidden. Oh, base composed ability. Get keywords, bool. Ah, son of a biscuit. See, this doesn't make sense now. If I could put an ignore hidden here. But this is the very base card ability. There's no concept of like hiding a base card ability. So what I may have to do Why? Why? Is hidden. Okay, I guess what I'll do is I'll just do this. Private bool get all keywords, not bool. Why do I keep doing that? That's weird. Hash set keyword. Get all keywords. We'll just put this here. Okay. And actually, maybe I'll just make this public. Do I want to name this something different? Get all keywords? It doesn't matter. So the override will remain the same. This get all keywords though. This is going to go in the base enchant. So this is going to get all the keywords. Actually, let's do this. Unconditionally. Okay. So that makes it clear. So now all the enchants, none of these have to override this get keywords anymore. So I can remove this because, see, this is why I'm thinking like the enchants, this is kind of like a archaic code now, because it would make more sense if I just implemented the enchants as a special type of ability on the item rather than like an actually a separate object that has to then add a hidden ability onto the item. Because that would make this just a lot easier. Of course, I guess it's possible that I could introduce an enchant that isn't quite an ability in the future. So maybe this actually is good for flexibility purposes, but it does make this kind of thing a little bit annoying. But of all the enchants that I have in the game, all of them are basically abilities under the hood. So now what I can do is I could go to my base enchant. I could see, do I have any of those overridden still? Find all implementations. Nope, find all implementations. Not corruptible. Yeah, see this. Same deal. Get rid of this. Get rid of that. Swarm enchant, same deal. All right, let's take a gander now. Oh, echo enchant. Get rid of this as well. So now because each enchant is returning an abilities list, what I'm doing in the base enchant is I'm basically just saying, you know, get all the abilities and then select all the keywords. So that should hopefully fix that issue. I love the stream so far. Do you have a regular streaming schedule? Yes, at this time every day. So we've been going for an hour and 13 minutes. So whatever your time zone happens to be, just subtract basically an hour and 13 minutes. And that's like my normal stream time every day, or just about every day, 6 days a week. I usually don't stream on Sundays. So now if I pin this, it's not working. Why is the pinning no longer working? Oh, it only works if I have an item in there. Oh, that's weird. No, wait, now it works. Wait, why wasn't it working? Anyway, so we've got echo. There is no okay. Let's see. Oh, do I need to look at all these as well? Not corruptible. Corruption immunity. Oh. Really? Enchant ID not corruptible. I wonder why that's not doing the detection. This is ballooning into multiple fixes now. Enchants. Okay, so wait, let's see. Generate abilities. Where is it doing the validation? Throw, errors, validate ability keywords. For each of our ability inabilities. Okay. Build ability list. Enchant. Enchant abilities is equal to Enchant, get enchants for tool. Enchant config. I think that's all I need to do. So now the translation generator should tell me when I'm missing some keywords in my enchants, which was not previously the case. No, it worked. Oh, if ability dot is hidden. Oh. Same issue. Actually, I don't think I want to do that. So we want to exclude the enchant abilities from this check. About 6:30 a.m. for me is your start time. I can listen on my way to work. Very cool. Yeah, I mean, I realize that this time is not the best for everybody. But I do bonus streams in the afternoon sometimes. So if you want to just follow the channels, hey, there we go. So now I got to fix all these things. Oh, gosh. Oh, no. All right, well, let's just... It looks like every single enchant is missing some keywords. Wow. You work on one thing and then it just balloons. Convert damage to bleed. Now, why is this one not working? The conversion modifier should... Keyword funk. No, that should be working. Uses keyword damage, but damage is... Yeah, that should be fine. Why is that not working, actually? I think this is wrong. Let's see. I might need to do different logic for this, actually. No, maybe not, though. Declared keywords. Damage is missing from get keywords. How is that possible? How is that possible? This should be returning the keywords. Oh. Oh, right, because it's still the hidden issue. Oh, this is a mess. Okay. Get all keywords unconditionally. All right. Here we go again. Where you live, here's already 12 p.m. I'm in Ohio, in the United States. So I'm just an hour behind you. Okay, that looks more like it. Enchant critical bonus. Critical bonus per heal. Right, okay. So this now. Chant, fire, miss, chance, and debuff. Okay, and then what's the... Oh, I closed it on accident. There should be one issue remaining. Chant not corruptible. That's the one I knew was a problem. Additional keywords is equal to keywords.corrupted. All right, are we good now? So yeah, just a little bit of hardening there. Make sure that when I go to generate the translations that I'm setting up all the keywords properly as well. So now that should be fine. We don't see any translation changes. Okay, so now if I go in, there we go. Bleed and damage, poison, passive. There we go. All right. Oh, that's kind of funny, actually. I can pin that tooltip as well. All right, well, that's not great, but obviously the layout is terrible too. So we're going to need to figure that out. But the good news is that it looks like the input is being handled properly here. Oh, it's not. Oh, wait. There we go. Okay. So I can do it on controller. The problem is I can pin everything. So I basically just need to clear this. It's not being cleared when I clear it. So let's see, tooltip pin component. Unpin this dot keywords dot clear. I guess I don't need to do that. Okay. So I'm just going to make it so that you can pin any tooltip, whether or not it has any descriptions or not will just be irrelevant. So I go into the enchant. I pin this. There we go. That is still not correct. Oh, because they're different. Wait a minute. Yeah, why is that not clearing? Why is it not clearing? Does this the skip event button uses a generic tooltip? Set header, set body. Register tooltip keywords. Set keywords. I wonder why it's not clearing. Why is it not clearing? Keywords.clear on unpin. I guess I'll just put a breakpoint here. Oh, is it? Register clickable control. Connect to hover exited, connect to hover. Connect to hover entered, connect to hover exited. Oh, I see. So it's registering the keywords on hover. So it's going to show the keywords for whatever was last hovered. I wonder if I should... Yeah, maybe just at the generic tooltip level, what I do is I do... So we're calling the handler. So what I probably want to do here, though, is I probably want to... Or maybe on hover exited is what I want to do. Hide tooltip. Do I just do register tooltip keywords like that? Is that what I want to do? So anytime the tooltip gets hidden, it just clears the tooltips. I wonder if that's what I want to do. Let's take a gander. Oops, I pressed the wrong button. That's all right. Okay, that seems to work. There's my... So I can pin that tooltip. It doesn't do anything, so... But I think it's probably best to make it consistent rather than, you know, try to be fancy about it. Okay. So I can still open the inventory back here, which is unfortunate, but that's all right. Okay. So that's working pretty well. I mean, there's obviously a lot of polishing that needs to go on here. But the next big problem is going to be the map tooltip. That's going to be the next one that we need to fix. And then, of course, I need to make it display well. So not everything is using the generic tooltip, which is unfortunate. Does the shop use the generic tooltip? Let's try the shop. I don't know exactly how this is going to work, but let's go ahead and try it. 4:14 starts about 3 p.m. UK. Programming in a nutshell, ripple effect can be brutal, yeah. Hello, Hive B. Welcome. I'm on my lunch break from work so I can watch the streams more easily. Awesome. Are you testing with controller? I am. You know what's interesting? I have no idea how these tooltips are working. but they are working, so we'll just call that good. It is not working here though. So the artifact ones, can I get keywords from artifacts? No, I can't. So we're going to need to add keyword support to artifacts as well. Wow, this is ballooning into quite a thing, but this is something that multiple people requested being able to do. Oh, and I can still, oh, that's a problem. I probably do need to pause. I probably should just pause the game when you're pinning the tooltips, or otherwise I need to figure out some other kind of way of blocking input. Wait a minute. Oops. Yeah, I can still move around the inventory here. Okay, so yeah, that's a problem. And I can pin multiple things. Oh gosh. Artifacts currently don't have a way of grabbing that focus. Sorry, I'm just trying to think of like how I want to handle this input stuff. I mean, the tempting thing to do is just pause the game. Now the problem though is what happens if I do this? I mean, it's good to see that this tooltip pinning is working in like all these contexts. That's pretty cool. Inspect. Yeah. Yeah, I think the problem here, so a lot of my input handling stuff is dependent upon 8 cannot be greater than -20. Okay, whatever. A lot of my input handling stuff is dependent upon the tree order of something. So what I may need to do, this generic tooltip is an auto load. What I might need to do is like force this generic tooltip to be the last child in the remote tree, which should push it to the priority, the front priority of input handling. So if I look at this, my generic tooltip is here. I need my generic tooltip to be like below main, actually. Interesting. Interesting. I mean, I could just try that and see if it fixes all my problems. But first, let's see. What else do I have to do? What other tooltips do I have? I need the ability pool tooltip. And I also need map node tooltip support. Can I even rightly mark any of these things as done? No. Okay. Let's try this. Go to my generic tooltip. On ready. We are going to call base.ready, and then we're going to do callable.from, call deferred, move child this. Is there an easy way to move it to the last child? Whatever. Move child this. Yeah. So if I look at my remote scene tree now, we can see that the generic tooltip is above main here, which means that it's going to have input priority. So what I should be able to see now is when I open up the skull wand here, yeah, all that focus is properly lost. So that's good. We could also check the unlocks menu, go to the unlock tree. We inspect this. I could still scroll that. Son of a biscuit. So I've done all this work on this tooltip pinning, and none of these items are complete yet, but that's okay. I mean, it's a bigger feature than I thought it was going to be, but most of it is just like input handling related and positioning stuff. So I need to, what do I want to do about this? I guess I don't really have a choice but to just like work through all the issues. On Windows 11, I think you can click the error box and then Control-C to copy it and paste it in the editor. So I won't need to screenshot the error pop-up. Oh, the screenshot's easier, I think. But that's good to know, though. I hate working with UI. Yeah, it's kind of difficult. Legendary game design. I can't how it's working, but it's working. Yeah. What do you think about this problem of being able to decompile games made in Godot? I don't really have many thoughts on it. I mean, I think basically all games are decompilable. The only thing that changes is how difficult it is to do that. I mean, the stuff that ends up on client machines is just going to be decompilable, right? And especially like, you know, the traditional way of like doing it is to like obfuscate your code and whatnot. But I've already seen examples of like the AI tools being able to like just reverse obfuscated code into something easily readable. So yeah, I mean, the fundamental issue is that whatever runs on a client machine, the client machine has access to necessarily, and it's going to be decompilable no matter what you do. if you want true security, you have to like hide your functionality on a server somewhere and have the client remotely connect to it, which obviously is overkill for single player games. So I don't really think about it too much. I mean, it's like the only thing you can do is make it more difficult, but like I said, with these AI tools, I think it's going to be trivially easy to reverse engineer and decompile stuff anyway, so might as well just not even worry about it. This latest Spire devs weren't concerned about it apparently, so I guess I shouldn't be either. Hello, Necromantic. Good to see you. 15 stream streak. Nice. Welcome. What are your thoughts on scenes versus code? I decided to limit my game to basically one scene. Everything else is made from code. As code, it's easier to actually reuse and parameterize. So you're constructing your scene tree with code purely. I think that is I mean, yeah, it depends on your needs, right? But I guess I've never really tried taking that approach. I'm trying to think of situations where like having a very having parameterized scene construction would be useful. Because obviously, like whenever I need dynamic elements of a scene, I just create multiple sub-scenes, right? But I guess I could imagine a situation where you have a scene where it's highly variable, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I guess, yeah, I'm just having a hard time imagining a situation where that would be useful. I'm not saying there isn't a situation where that would be useful. I don't have any experience with that to know for sure. I just usually construct everything as a scene, and then if I need more granularity, I'll just create sub-scenes, and then I'll conditionally instantiate those sub-scenes when I need them. I do like having everything in the editor, though, I will say that. Like being able to visually inspect and edit things, particularly when it comes to UI. I can see it being a massive pain in the rear to try to create some kind of sophisticated UI layout in only code, because you'd have to run the game every single time to see like what the size flags are doing and everything. So yeah, I don't know. I don't really know much about the... Oh, path to node is invalid. Oh, is that a bad thing? Let's see. I wonder why that was happening. All right, well, I've got a bunch of input issues to solve. I think most of them have been solved, though, by just moving the position of that tooltip. So one thing I want to do is I want to get the positioning of this to be nicer, because obviously this is broken, right? So let's fix that. But before I do that, I'm going to take another quick break, and then when I come back, we will work on the visual presentation a little bit and see how that goes. Visual UI is the main driver behind using an engine over a framework for me, along with all the other stuff, but still, yeah, I think that's a good point for sure. All right, I'll be right back in just 3 minutes, and we will continue on. All right, so I said that we would continue on with the tooltip, but to be honest, I don't want to work on this right now. So we are going to create a new piece of content because that's always fun. And what we're going to create is, I actually really liked the idea that NinjaLink put into the Discord, which was the explosive concoction artifact. And so we're going to go ahead and implement that. If an item has both fire and poison abilities, convert poison applied to fire. So let's do that. And then I'll do the tooltip stuff myself later today. I don't think the tooltip stuff is that interesting to watch either, because it's just going to be me fumbling around with positionings and whatnot. So everyone likes content though. Everyone likes content. And I need to do more content anyway, so there's no wasted effort here. All right, so let's do artifact creation tool. We will do explosive. I may call it something else. Explosive concoction. Did I spell that correctly? I did. Okay. Let's go ahead and draw it first. Alchemist's Fire. Oh, that's a good one. Actually, I do know what I'm going to call it. I'm going to tie it. I'm trying, as I create more items, I feel like I've got a good amount of like lore and world building going on. So I kind of want to connect more items to each other. So we already have Master Till's skull. So what I might call it is like Master Till's concoction or something. Like relate those two things together. I think that would be kind of fun. Just doing that stuff, like instead of making everything a unique like lore entry, start tying things together. And I've been doing that for a little bit. Like if you read the flavor text of the items, you'll notice that there's like things that share references to certain events or places or people. Artifact. No, that's wrong. Assets. Artifacts.asprite. Okay, let's create a new layer. Explosive concoction. Alrighty then. I think it might be a good idea to do something like this. Trying to figure out how to get my symmetry lines to work the way I want them to. Oh, there we go. I'm getting too close to the edge now, but I can move this up actually. I think that's a pretty good shape. And then I'm going to make it basically look like a Molotov cocktail, I think. I think that'd be kind of funny. So we're going to do like... Oh, I got to be careful not to... Yeah, I can't go too close to the edge there, so I'm going to need to... do that, basically. That doesn't look wavy enough to me. Let's try again. Got to make sure to keep the boundaries. That is too close to the edge, so we need to move this over. One, two, three, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Perfect. I noticed that a lot of the artifacts have a lean towards the upper right. Is that on purpose? Yes. And the reason for that is it just looks very nice when they're all next to each other and they all have the same orientation. As a matter of fact, I may redo some of these artifacts like this one to be the same way. I just think it gives it a nice visual consistency. And the other thing that's nice too is that when I orient things along a diagonal, I can actually fit more art into it, right? Because if you imagine I rotate this, 90 degrees or whatever, basically in a square, right, there's more length along the diagonal than there is across like any of the perpendiculars. So drawing like this bell straight up and down would leave a lot of empty room on the sides, the left and the right, but also I would have to shrink it down a little bit, maybe by like 1 or 2 pixels to fit in the zone, the safe zone. So yeah, there's multiple reasons for drawing. I get more space, I can do more detail on the artifact, and they look nice and consistent when they're all angled the same way. And I just like how that looks, ultimately. Not all artifacts follow that pattern, obviously, but yeah. I guess what I would say is like when I'm drawing a long, slender item, I tend to just go and favor the diagonal approach. But I don't know. Do you think it looks fine? I mean, I am a little bit worried about them looking a little bit too samey, I guess, but I think I want to make this a little bit thinner. Ooh, that actually looks pretty good. Does it look good? Looks like a chicken drumstick, but that's all right. Okay, I guess we'll just work on we'll work on doing the highlighting and stuff for this, the shading. Well, I'm not really liking how this is turning out so far, but that's okay. Just keep working at it. Okay, that's looking a little bit better, I think. Trying to add a little bit of texture to the bottle, but I don't think I'm really accomplishing that. We'll just play around with this for a little bit, I guess. We'll see if we can get it to work. Your tip yesterday about scope was super helpful. I originally wanted to make a cutscene where the player walks into a hotel to trigger the story, but I dropped the idea. It would have been only 5 seconds long, but setting up the environment, trees, landscape, and cars would have taken ages. So now the game just starts inside the hotel room I've already modeled and set up. Yeah, there you go. That's I think that's a great example of cutting scope. Because, like, and it depends, I guess, on what audience you're making the game for, but me personally, I would have just skipped your cutscene anyway. Sorry to say. So it's like, yeah, you kind of have to manage like what's most important. So yeah, I think that's great. It can be hard though. Like sometimes, like, I don't know if this is the same for you guys, but sometimes I get tunnel vision and I'm like, oh, I gotta fix this thing. I gotta make it work this way. And then I get 15 minutes into doing the thing and then I'm like, wait a minute. Like, is this really the proper approach? Like, I know it's the quote unquote like right approach, but can I accomplish the same thing much simpler? That's still something that I'm struggling with myself, is like I have this, I don't know, like I want to do it right and I want to make everything work perfectly, but then it's like it doesn't really matter in a lot of cases. What matters more is getting the thing done so that I can move on to something else. Well, I don't really know. I think the shading on the, like, in the neck here is a little bit weird still. The neck of the bottle. Well, realizing now that this should probably be inside of the thing, which I actually don't know how I'm going to do. Maybe something like that. I don't know. Well, it's not the most perfect thing I've ever done, but I guess it's serviceable. Maybe I'll redraw this later. I feel like just the neck part is weird. That's the part that's like not sitting right with me. That actually looks a little bit better. Wonder if I just really emphasize this. What am I doing? Push this back up a little bit. Well, I don't really know. I might have to redraw this. I don't think it's super good. Well, whatever. I may just redraw this whole thing. Yeah, I may just redraw the whole thing. I don't really like it. I don't like it that much at all, actually. Really need to learn this and pixel art creation for assets in general. I could get so far if I did. Yeah, I definitely encourage you to do it. Being able to just hop in and make your own art whenever you need it is very nice. Now, granted, we end up with situations like this sometimes where you don't really end up with what you want, but I mean, like, this art is serviceable. You know, if I never changed it again, it would be all right, I guess, but I definitely feel like I could have done better on that, but we must move forward. We must move forward. Artifacts. So we'll get that art in there. Description. If an item has both keyword fire, fire, and keyword poison, poison abilities, convert poison to fire. Okay. So that'll work. The whole cutscene isn't that bad to make, but the environment is. I wanted to introduce the purpose of being in this hotel through it. It's about a detective hired to investigate why a girl was killed there. So in the cutscene, the player would just hear a phone call with a client in the dream, along with some vague official story of what happened, then wake up. That's it. Oh, interesting. Yeah, but that kind of thing can be a lot of effort for sure. Hello, Nathan. Welcome back. Just saw a couple of your videos. They're pretty cool. Can you say you are a Godot expert? I would say so. I mean, I don't know everything there is to know about Godot. Like, I don't do anything in 3D really, but I've been using Godot since 2017, and it's basically been, not basically, it's the only engine I've used since then. So I'm approaching, you know, well, yeah, 9 years of consistent Godot use, I would say. I would say that qualifies me as an expert. Maybe not. But like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of everything, and I don't know a lot about like what the source code of the engine is doing. So, but in terms of like effectively using the tool to build 2D games, yes, I would say so. I would say that's an accurate assessment. Build. All right. I don't know why I did that. I guess I wanted to write the translations. All right, let's go to the explosive concoction now. We're just going to copy... I don't know, I'll just copy magnifying glass for now. Maybe not. What is What is a good artifact to base this off of? Minion crit chance, I guess. Are you serious? Okay. I don't think I need this. Let's do, I might just do ability builder. Do I have a conversion one? No, I don't. Okay, let's create public static conversion. We're gonna do type source type dest type source type dest type. Oh, the problem is I don't have the keywords. Oops. Source type dest type. I don't have a way of mapping a type to keyword. Public static keyword type to keyword. Can I do this? I guess not, right? So maybe we create this the keyword private static read-only dictionary type keyword type to keyword. Type of bleed. What else am I missing? Type of Okay, that's probably fine. Ability builder. Okay, this would be key. Convert. Conversion. Let's just do conversion. Or we'll just call it convert, whatever. Okay, converts. And actually, what am I doing? Source keyword is equal to this. Our dest keyword is equal to that. Okay. Ah, fudge. This actually needs to say something different. All right, this is just too whatever. I thought this was going to be easier, but the language actually needs to be different, so I'm just gonna do it manually. Yeah. What did I say this was going to do? Poison. Fire. New fire. Keywords dot poison. Okay, and then converts poison. Okay, composed ability. Okay, so now the filter, this would be is owned by player and base card has related keyword. Keywords dot poison. Okay. I think that should basically be it. Build the translations. Debug. Let's see, wait a minute. Oh, I've got a filter on. I was like, where did all my settings go? Test player artifacts on. Explosive concoction. Okay. I've just started learning game making and coding too, but being brand new, do you think it's bad to use AI to explain concepts or tools? No, I don't think so. I keep it strict on not using to write code. I think that's a perfectly fine way of using it. I think that's a perfectly fine way of using it for sure. I mostly use Godot in 3D now, but I started with 2D. I don't think it gets a lot harder. Maybe in math and movement, but on logic it's the same. try one day, it's fun. No, I'm not worried about like the actual building of the game. I think that's fine. Like you said, the concepts are largely the same. There's just a third dimension, but all the vector math concepts and whatnot are still the same. The part that's hard about 3D games is that I feel like, and this is me speaking not from experience, but just from vibes, I feel like creating a visually coherent and beautiful 3D game is a lot harder, or at least it would be a lot harder for me. Because the environments, by the nature of being 3D, they have depth to them. They've got a lot more space that needs to be filled. And then the other thing too is like performance considerations are going to be a lot more important in a 3D game versus a 2D game. So yeah, it's not the actual gameplay programming that I'm hesitant about. It's about the broadening of the artistic and visual design skill set, plus, you know, animations and stuff. You know, I see so many indie games that are 3D and the animations just look so bad. And it's like, I have no reason to think that my animations in 3D would be any different. So yeah, just like making a game, a 3D game that looks nice and polished and visually coherent and that runs well are just things that are a lot harder to do, in my opinion. I played your game yesterday for 1 hour. Where can I submit some fresh feedback? You could submit the feedback in the Discord. There's an Alchemortis feedback channel, so that would be appreciated. Oh, thank you, New Jank, for the raid. Appreciate that. Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. It's going well. How are you doing? Currently working on my game Alchemortis. Right now I'm just working on adding a new artifact. This is a brand new artifact here. I've yet to test it. But Alchemortis, I think many of you have seen it already, but Alchemortis is a dark fantasy roguelite auto battler where you can use alchemy to create your own builds and synergies. And there's a playtest right now which you can try. The playtest will be available for the next 46 hours. Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern is when the playtest ends. So you still have a couple of days, just about 2 days, to try it out if you're interested. So you started using Godot straight away. Do you have any programming experience? I had programming experience prior to starting Godot. And when I was working in Godot, that was mostly just hobby projects. I had a day job as a software engineer, so I had the programming experience. The programming was not the hard part of Godot for me. The hard part was just figuring out like how to use the engine, basically. As a new player, I felt the game was very overwhelming. Yes, that's common feedback. That's the time my newborn allowed me, yeah. So I'm currently working on that. I actually have a tutorial rework in progress right now. I'm working on improving the clarity of a lot of things. And I need to think more carefully about the unlocks. I think what I might do is dramatically prune the amount of complex items that are available to you until you unlock them. And I'm hoping that those combination of things will help with the overwhelmingness of the game. It's kind of like a catch-22 because the reason why the game is overwhelming is because there's quite a lot that you can do. There's a lot of depth, and that's also the thing which keeps people engaged. Like, a lot of people have over 50 hours. There are some people who have played the playtest who have put over 100 hours into it. And I think that's the case precisely because of the same reasons why the game is overwhelming are the reasons why people find the game fun for dozens of hours. So it's a hard needle to thread, right? Like, how do I ease players into it? How do I simplify the beginning experience or clarify the beginning experience of the game without sacrificing the complexity which ultimately makes the game replayable? That's a very hard thing to do. Anyway, let's try this. So we alchemize these things. We should get a poison and fire. And it doesn't work. Oh, no, it does work. Oh, I forgot to set the prefix on it. Right. Composed ability. Set description prefix, get prefix name. Okay. But we could try this now. Converts poison applied to fire. Apply 3. Oh, wait, am I going to apply fire to self now because of that corrupted ability? I think I will. Let's see. No, it's applying it. Oh, that's not good. Oh, you know what I need to do, actually? I think what I'm missing... Yeah, this needs to be... I might as well just make this safe. And actually, I might fix... It needs to keep the targeting. So anywhere where I'm using this conversion modifier, I actually need to keep the self-targeting. Oh, here's what I want to... I'm going to rework Manticore Stinger as well. I don't think anyone is using that item. We'll put that in the back. Maybe I'll keep it in the to-do, whatever, it's fine. Okay, so conversion modifier, dragon scales, convert armor to fire. This needs to be the inverse. Source as shield. So we need to do not source as shield dot. Oh wait. Oh, I don't have this as a... So is that right? So if the shield is targeting the enemy, target self is true by default. The shield is... I don't know why. Why is that inverted? I should just make that consistent. Well, whatever. It doesn't matter. So if the shield is targeting the enemy, it needs to apply fire to self. I think that's right. We're gonna have to test that. Artifact. Master tills. Concoction. Test dragon scales. Reagent. Update other conversion modifier targeting. So this is kind of like unrelated stuff, but... Oh no! I have to rewrite all of that. Learned my lesson. It needs to preserve the targeting logic. So, let's see. Oh, I need to update this everywhere. I guess this is an easier way of doing it. Wait a minute. Wonder if I should just bake that into the conversion modifier itself. You know what I should do? I should add an I self-targetable. Yeah, I probably should do that. Because otherwise I'm going to have to do this every time. That one's correct. Is that right? I think that's right. Heal is another one where it targets self by default. So I need to invert it for offensive uses. Okay, so this is shield, and yeah, that's right. Manticore Stinger, I'm going to rework that anyway, so I'm not going to pay attention to that. Okay. All right. Well, that's a little sloppy because I have to do that everywhere with conversion modifier, so I should definitely standardize that. The problem is, you know, these all have an individual target self implementation, so I need to get I need to cast it properly when I really should be doing something like an I self targetable and then expose this Boolean, and then I can just say, oh, if it's a self targetable, if the source and the destination types for the conversion are both self targetable, then I want to, well, that would be a little bit difficult too. Yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. Okay, so I think we're good. Let's try it again. Hello, Sobi. Welcome. Not too shabby here. Good. Also, why I think it's way harder to find 3D assets. Sometimes you stumble across super bad optimized model. That's true. I could have sworn I was already following you. That's all right. That's all right. Thank you again for the raid, though. I appreciate that. I unlocked so many stuff in my first run, I just couldn't keep up with the synergies. Maybe do a scripted run. First run and a slower unlock. Yeah, I mean, I originally did the tutorial as a scripted run initially. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do about the tutorial. I mean, right now I'm just fleshing out the existing tutorial as it works and doing more to explain alchemy. I'm hoping that will be enough, but yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. Are you a big Path of Exile fan? Playing this felt a bit like theory crafting and Path of Building. Yes, yeah, I have. I mean, I don't even know. Let's see. Path of Exile 2. I have 244 hours in Path of Exile 2, and I think Path of Exile 1, I've got 674 hours. So yeah, I've played quite a bit of those games. I definitely like the complexity there. So, any tips on managing item data? Yeah, I mean that's a very broad topic. I mean, it really just comes down to abstractions, really. Like it's the same as like basically every problem in programming is just like breaking down things into systems, and then breaking down those systems into subsystems, and then breaking down those subsystems into like modular chunks of functionality. What I think is really important, especially for a game like this, is that you want your systems to be as unified as possible, meaning that whenever an ability executes, what you don't want to be in the situation of is having a bunch of like hyper specific conditional logic to handle all these different ability cases, right? If you find yourself in a situation where you're like, oh, like 90% of the abilities work this way, but 10% work this way, and now I have to branch my ability execution logic to handle that 10% of cases, but then later in development you introduce a brand new ability that doesn't fit into either of those cases, so now you got to branch off into a third time. That's like a recipe for spaghetti. So trying to unify the systems as much as possible and build what are essentially frameworks for your game to just agnostically handle, like, my ability system is basically just like, it doesn't care what the ability being executed is. It just says, oh, here's my ability list, and now I'm going to go through the same steps for every single ability, right? Do this, do that, do that. Okay, we've set up the pre-execution, execute the ability. All right, and then after the ability is executed, do this, do that, do that. And so every ability in the game goes through the same execution pipeline. And the granularity about how the abilities behave is handled entirely by the ability scripts themselves, right? So if I go to Phoenix, the Phoenix ability is defined entirely in here, right? This is the entire definition of that Phoenix ability. The systems that actually run the abilities during combat do not care what is inside of this. They don't. All they do is they just call the execution function, and then these things take over, right? So yeah, you definitely, so that's about like managing data flowing through your system. You want to like unify the pipelines as much as possible, create a very predictable and ordered framework that does things the same way every time. And the differences in how things are handled should be as local to the class that needs to handle them as possible. So if you think about your systems in that way, like, it becomes a lot, maybe not a lot easier, but you have a clearer set of boundaries about how to like design your code. So like, now that I have, you know, a very predictable ability system, I could just like flat out remove this ability and the system doesn't care. Like, the system doesn't care if this ability doesn't exist or does exist. It doesn't care if this ability gets created at runtime or if it's defined, you know, well, I guess what I mean is like dynamically during runtime. Like, I could create an ability just off the cuff in a random function and say, here, execute this ability, and that would work. So yeah, but in terms of like, maybe you're talking about like item data in terms of like the cards here, right? This is the same thing, right? You want to come up with like a generic resource that fits every item of the same type, right? So all of my cards have this card definition resource. They all have these properties always. And so I can set up the initial like foundation of the item here. And then in terms of how the ability behaves or how the item behaves, that's defined in the item's class. So anyway, I don't know if that's helpful at all, but that's how I think about it. So if you put those bounds on yourself, it kind of like makes it a little bit more guided in terms of how you develop your systems. What you should feel is like the moment you feel like you're branching, you're creating some sophisticated branching to handle all these different cases, that is like a red flag that maybe you haven't systematized your approach properly. And that doesn't mean that's necessarily a bad thing either, but yeah, you just want to like unify the pipelines as much as possible, push data through those pipelines in a very predictable way, and I think you'll notice that creating complex systems becomes a lot easier. So I don't know if that answers your question, but it's all trees. Yeah, I mean, my ability system is essentially a tree. So each item has a list of abilities, but these are composed abilities. So this is a composed ability. And what that means is that this is actually a wrapper that ties multiple other modular abilities together. So this generic execution count provider, this is an ability. It extends base card ability, but you can see how small this class is, right? All that this does is this just increments a counter every time the execute is called, right? That's all it does. That's all it's responsible for. And then I've got a query target provider, right? And all that this class is responsible for is querying the boards based on certain filters and returning a list of other cards that match those filters. So that's all that that's responsible for. The buff applicator here, again, all of this is responsible for is applying a buff to a list of targets, right? Conditional ability decorator, all this is responsible for is storing a condition and telling the decorated ability whether it can execute based on that condition. And then the way that the composed ability gets stitched together is I add all of those abilities to a list in the order that I want them to execute, right? So we've got fire, execution count provider, the query target provider, and the exhaust, the conditional exhaust. So basically what I'm saying here is for the Phoenix, always apply this 8 fire as the first ability, then increment the execution count, then do the self query to get a reference to this item, and then conditionally execute exhaust against that item, that self query result. And that conditional ability decorator will basically just check if the execution count provider value is equal to 2. And then if that's true, it exhausts the Phoenix, right? So that's in a nutshell how my ability system works. It's these really tiny chunks of individual quote unquote abilities that I stitch together in a composed ability. And then when the ability system executes, it essentially just flattens out the list. So the composed ability, these composed abilities don't actually do anything when they execute. So if I look at base composed ability here, you can see that the execute method here, this just returns an empty result. It doesn't do anything. Because the composed ability is essentially just a container that stitches multiple other abilities together. And so when I'm sending abilities through my execution pipeline, this ability list gets just flattened into a giant list, right? So I might have 40 abilities that all execute sequentially. And that's how it works essentially. But this way of structuring the code and structuring the data makes it so that I can create these little chunks of abilities that are stitched together that work together in a very specific way. And that gives me a lot of flexibility, but it also gives me a lot of predictability, right? Because I have no way of controlling the ability execution lifecycle from inside of here. So if I need to do something interesting with an ability, like do something I've never done before, I have to add support for that at the framework level so that I can modify, excuse me, so that I can modify whatever I need to modify only from within this class, right? So I should be able to fully control how this ability behaves inside of this block. And if I can't do that, then that means that my ability execution framework is lacking some kind of feature or functionality that I need. Anyway, let's see if this applies self-fire. Okay, it is applying self-fire. Good. Okay, well, do that. Oops, I completely messed that up. It's okay, I'm the developer, I have cheats. Sorry, plebeians. You will have to play the game normally, but I have cheats. Okay, so this one, does this converts poison applied to fire? Yes, let's check this again. So this should apply 1 fire. Wait. Uh-oh. It wasn't playing... It did apply fire, but it didn't play any fire. Oh. What is that called? I forgot. Effect player component. Is per target effect, source effects played contains. Oh yeah. So I think the problem here is if I have 2 fire abilities that execute on an item, but one of fire ability targets self and one fire ability targets enemy, it's not playing two separate visuals. I think what this code is saying is that as soon as I'm applying fire from a source card, I'm only going to play one effect and cancel it. But I actually need to differentiate between source fire and target fire. So that is a bug. I'll write that down. Effect player component does not play two effects for example, for abilities, for example, fire, that targets self and then targets enemy. So that's a bug that I'm going to need to address. Okay, anyway, I think the concoction is done. Let me just make sure all my changes are sound here. Wasn't applied to fire. Okay. Artifacts. Okay. There we go. Oh, I need to test dragon scales. Let me just make sure that that still works. Converts armor applied to fire. Uh-oh. Really? Okay, let's try this again. Okay, let me make sure that that still works. Yeah, there we go. Cool. Excellent. Okay, close all. I think we're good. Do this, call that done. Would you recommend a particular backend for defining items, custom resources? I just use the custom resources in Godot. I haven't really encountered a situation yet where I would need a more sophisticated tool than that. I mean, I kind of am. At the point where like it would be useful to see all of the resources in like a table format of some kind. Because otherwise I have to click into every resource in the editor to see like how it's configured, right? So I gotta, you know, click through all these. And I might be interested in like, what are the tags? What is the turn cooldown, critical chance? And it's really hard to tell at a glance like how varied this configuration is between items. So yeah, a table view would be nice. I think there are add-ons for that, but I haven't really found it to be that pressing, honestly. Finally done with that meeting. It went way longer than I expected. Surprised you're still on. Yeah, we just finished doing your explosive concoction idea. You're welcome, Rig Dev. What are we up to? I was just having a discussion about some system design stuff. Definitely have to review the VOD. Pretty sure there's an editor plugin for resource editing. Yeah. Anyway, that will be it for the stream today, I think. We're just about 3 hours, so I'm going to return to the tooltip pinning stuff. That's going to be a huge pain. So my goals for the rest of the week are basically to get the tooltip pinning done and the tutorial rework done. And then I have to finish all these to-do items for the demo. So I think it'll be fine. I'm a little bit worried about the tutorial. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't want players to get overwhelmed early, but I also don't know how to really design the tutorial in a better way. Maybe I do have to move back to just like a scripted first run. We'll have to think about that. That was a fast suggestion implementation. Yes, it was. Missed it again. Sorry about that. Anyway, that's going to be it for the stream. Alchemortis is still available for playtesting for a little bit. So if you're interested, definitely check it out. You can request access. The playtest ends Friday at 9 a.m. Eastern. So a little bit under 2 days left to go. You can also wishlist the game if you're interested in it. I would appreciate that. And yeah, that's it. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for being here. And I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye-bye for now.